What are NFTs and how do they work? We've seen the internet in the 90s and the internet stocks flow up, and then suddenly crash. Then we had Web 2.0 with mobile, and then now we see Web 3.0, and we see the same thing happening, just like when the internet first started or in the gold rush, where we have all these NFTs, all these cryptocurrencies, everybody's rushing to buy them, and then at some point it will go ahead and correct itself over time. But NFTs are super important. They are the next wave of technology we're going to see, just like the internet, just like mobile. And just like in the 90s, when people said the internet is not going to be around, why is everybody investing in this? It's the same idea with blockchain and NFTs. Even though people think it's a fad, it is here to stay. The technology is here, and it is going to completely change the way we do business, completely transform the way we do almost everything when it comes to transactions. So NFTs, they stand for non-fungible tokens. Great. What exactly does that mean? That doesn't help. Non-fungibility or fungibility. So you can think of grains of rice. If we have one grain of rice and another grain of rice, they can pretty much be swapped. Or a dollar bill with another dollar bill. They both represent the same amount of value. For the most part, they can be swapped. But if you think about something non-fungible, so that was fungibility. If we think of something non-fungible, we can think of houses. Your house is different from my house. Yes, they're both houses, right? They're both in the same asset class, but they are different physical houses. They are different assets, even though they're in the same circle of assets or the same asset class. Again, because your house is not the same as my house. I mean, unless we live together, right? But ideally, we're living separately. That house over there is different from that house over there, right? Two physical houses are completely different from each other, yet they are both the same assets. So that is something that is non-fungible. You can't say that that house down the street is the same exact as the house over here, because even though they might be the same model or the same asset class, you cannot say that this house is that other house. They're two separate assets. Now, when it comes to NFTs, we can think of this non-fungibility, but now in the digital asset version or online. Just like now we have social media and all of these different digital platforms, now we just have a digital currency. So instead of being able to touch it, this physical, tangible thing like houses, it's now digital assets. Similar to stocks, but they're not quite the same. With these non-fungible tokens, they're just these digital assets where one digital asset is different from the other digital asset. And those are what NFTs are. They are digital assets that allow for each digital asset or each token to be completely different from another asset, from that other token that's available digitally. Now, how can you find NFTs? You might be thinking, well, you can actually go ahead and check out the digital marketplace, the NFT marketplace. The most common ones are going to be OpenSea. So you can check out OpenSea.io. You can also take a look at Rarible, Rarible.com. Those are the two main NFT marketplaces being used to buy and sell NFTs, or these non-fungible tokens, these digital assets that represent different things. So with these tokens, they can represent simply art, they can represent music, they can represent all these different types of assets. Just like people go ahead and purchase paintings, it's the same idea, but now we can do it on the internet. Now it's digital. And the beauty of these NFTs is not just art. It's not just art. With NFTs, they're changing the way we interact on the internet. They're going to change the way we even do transactions, as I mentioned earlier. Because with these tokens, not only can you put the art on that digital token, as a digital asset, you can actually go ahead and include intellectual property for that specific art, for that token, or you can add additional rights and access depending on how you choose the creator, the creator chooses to go ahead and build out that NFT collection, or this collection of digital assets, this digital art. Because let's say right now, if you are a creator, whether that's drawing or painting or music, you have to, or even a movie writer, right? You have to go ahead and usually give up some percentage or even all your rights to that movie so someone else can go ahead and fund your actual movie or your art or whatever it might be. Now with NFTs, instead of having to get funding and give up your rights to some other studio or some other group, you can actually go ahead and sell this collection to people on the internet, and you can choose whether you want to keep the intellectual property and just sell copies of the tokens that just represent the art but don't give away the intellectual property, or you can choose to give away pieces of your intellectual property or just intellectual property in general. So you can say, if you own this digital token, just like if you go on Instagram, you're on that digital platform, you can go ahead and own the digital token that says, hey, you have access to J.K. Rowling. You have a piece of Harry Potter for the rest of your life, right? It all depends on the smart contract that gets made when the creator of that project, of that collection, goes and what's called mints the collection, or that's when they create the collection. So it's really up to the creator for that digital collection what sort of rules they allow, but it's what's called a smart contract. Smart contracts, we're not going to get into the technical deep aspect, but smart contracts are just code that are attached to the digital assets, to these tokens, that allow for certain conditions to take place if those certain conditions are met. So again, if I hold a token that J.K. Rowling minted, creator of Harry Potter and the entire Harry Potter world and series, and when she minted that collection, says out of these 100 tokens, any person that owns one of these tokens gets one-on-one FaceTime with me for 1 hour per month, or they get 1% royalty of my revenue from Harry Potter, from all my sales of the Harry Potter books, right? She can actually go ahead and set the smart contract to whatever she's okay with giving up. And it's the same idea with any sort of creative. You can go ahead and allow for these smart contracts to give away certain intellectual property, or keep all the intellectual property and maybe give access or something else. But it's imperative as a creative that you understand NFTs, because they allow for creatives to go ahead and sell their art, to go ahead and sell their different ideas that come to their mind without having to sell the intellectual property, unless you want to go ahead and give up the entire intellectual property to a project, or just a percentage of the intellectual property for that specific project or the different art that you create. So with these NFTs, they're going to completely change the way artists go ahead and control the intellectual property. So instead of having this middleman between the artist and the people, we actually get rid of the middleman entirely. And that's what they say is decentralized. And so now you just have the artist and the people. The people can go ahead and purchase directly from the artist, and vice versa. The artist can go ahead, make their art, sell it on these NFT marketplaces, and as people go ahead and buy, that funds the artist and allows them to go ahead and will get paid, right? They don't need these middlemen, and they can go ahead and continue to collect royalties if that art continues to sell to other people. Perhaps they actually continue to make money. Again, that's all part of the smart contract when they go ahead and mint the collection. They can set it up so anytime I, the artist, sell my art to you, and that art gets sold to someone else and someone else and someone else, every time it gets sold, I can get a certain percentage of that profit back to me, a royalty back into my wallet. So that way I can continue to be funded as a creative, as an artist, and can continue to make art and can continue to just create without needing that funding. So that is how NFTs are going to completely change the way artists and creatives and people interact with each other when it comes to art, when it comes to transactions. So NFTs are non-fungible tokens, or these digital assets that allow us to either just own a piece of art, own the intellectual property, or some sort of other asset, but it gets stamped into that token. And they work through smart contracts that are a part of that token that gets sold on the actual marketplace. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video discussing what are NFTs and how exactly do they work, as well as taking a little look at smart contracts and the NFT marketplace. If you enjoyed today's video, please make sure to like and follow for more content. I'm PerezTheDev, and thanks for watching.